Yeah, it's interesting. Did you hear about Black Star though? Black Star got that new album coming up,
Dude,
solely produced by Madlib.
really?
That shit's about to be bonkers. That's all I have to say. Madlib's like my favorite producer.
So I think once they changed the music, they changed the culture.
Yeah.
And when you change the culture, you don't have those kind of guys running around as prevalent as you did in the 90s. Otherwise, the shit that's going down now in the streets wouldn't be going down as peacefully as it's going down, in my opinion. Because if you got, you know, people that will just blow your head off for some rims running around, they wouldn't just be looting and doing stuff like that or peacefully protesting. They would be out there shooting cops. You know, they would be out there starting some serious shit. And I think that was part of what the plan was to dumb down or to soften up the image, you know, of a culture. Because, I mean, look at how we used to dress back then versus how they dress now. Like the young kids now, they don't dress the way as aggressively as they did back in the NWA days. Because when you saw those guys, you knew what was up.
Yeah.
You wouldn't say nothing to those guys. You know, New York was all about, you know, Tim's and so on. You guys have a look in New York. And same as LA and, you know, every other city, I'm sure. But now those guys are our age. Those guys are in their 40s and older. They're not out there in the streets trying to start some shit. We've matured and we're trying to have a conversation about it now.
Motherfuckers got kids now. Motherfuckers, you know, I think that's what happens is over time, you know, and I think right now that's the one thing that we can wish for, at least as far from my perspective as a musician, is that there's a voice of reason now, because you see like people like Master P, you know what I'm saying, and T.I. and Killer Mike and all these guys, kind of like not that Killer Mike was ever like on some gangster shit like that, but there's a new consciousness that's hopefully guiding the younger crowd or the younger generation that is out acting and sort of using their voice to protest, you know, and you hope that there's guidance, because when we came up, a lot of those guys that was coming out that was gangbanging and thugging or whatever, you know, from different areas, they didn't really have that guidance. So they were coming from the broken home, you know, and the crack era had totally dismantled at least the black family. Coming from our perspective, the black family was completely destroyed and all of this type of shit, you know. So there was no real guidance at that time, but now we have elders, at least in the hip hop culture, which is very prevalent, like in media. You know what I mean? There's a voice of reason, I think. So hopefully, you know, like we as older people can help guide the younger people. You know what I mean?
It would be ideal, but I don't think that's going to happen. We had you know, larger leaders, I feel, back then. We had, you know, the Al Sharptons and Jesse Jacksons. We don't have leaders like that now. Those guys were
true.
They were running for president and stuff like that, you know, and then you had the music artists. You still had, you know, Chuck D and so on. But now that's all you've got. You've only got Killer Mike and you've only got David Banner, you know, you've only got these people. And I don't know how popular Killer Mike is with the younger crowd. I'm not with the younger crowd, so I don't even know if they even know who Killer Mike is. So I don't know how effective what he's saying or doing will be to somebody that's 19 years old, 22 years old. I don't know if the message will get lost between their ears. Yeah,
man. It's a crazy world, man. I wonder, you know, thinking about all the protests and, you know, now this unrest sort of boiling over. I just hope that we, at the end, we come out on the other side as better people, just in general, man. I mean, I know it sounds optimistic and sort of like, all right, you know, like, and we all come out like better people and shit. But, you know, that's what, you know, I think that's just my take on it. You know, I haven't really been on social media speaking out that much. I think I did like 2 posts, like photos and shit like that, and just with like some sort of small message. But right. I'm kind of like watching things from a distance, sort of like you are, because we're from the States and we're like kind of like looking at it, and we see it's all over the world that people are protesting this police brutality and violence and cops killing, black people and shit like that. And it's very, oh, yo, what up? It's very, it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know. This also doesn't seem that organic, but it does in a weird way as well. You know what I'm saying?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, the whole Black Lives Matter, it's becoming this whole big label of a thing.
Hold on.
now.
I didn't know we had to put on hats and shit. God damn it.
Look, I've been
Everybody
giving
got
myself
hats.
home haircuts. So,
That's
because
because you got hair. You fucking nice hairline having motherfucker.
It's not just having hair. It's looking good. Whereas mine, I look like a hobo. No offense to hobos. But,
What's going on, man?
yeah, hey guys, apologies for the hold up. Very
Sorry.
unprofessional, but
Life happens, man. It's all good. It's not a problem. So welcome to the podcast. We've been talking for about 10 minutes. Thoughts from LA to the UK with two of my home skillets over here. Johnny Voltec, musician, artist extraordinaire, and I don't even know how to introduce you anymore. You're doing so much stuff over there. I'll call you Nasty Naz or calling you the Beard. I don't know what's going on with you, but the dude with the magic hat on joining me, one of the original V3 TV dudes from back in the day. Welcome to the show. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe, you guys, if you're out there listening to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That's what's up. So just to bring you up, we really just started just kind of chit-chatting about the state of the culture, state of the union, really, and what's going to happen and what we can do. So Johnny, I cut you off. You were talking about well, I think last I said I was talking about how I don't know if the younger generation really knows about the Killer Mikes and so on, and how effective somebody like that's going to be in driving change. And you said something to the effect of, hopefully we come out as better people on the other end. Yeah. So what are we thinking that we need to do? Because you know me. Oh, you were talking about looking at it from the outside perspective because we're Americans and we're over here not really doing much on social media. I'm not doing that until now, obviously, but because it's so important. I think that what we're seeing right now is very close to what we were seeing in like the 60s, in the riots in Detroit and in Watts and so on. And when they put the National Guard out on the civilians and they're shooting at them and, all that crazy stuff. But I think we need to do something more on the political side of the game. And I think that's where we're failing. And I think that's probably part of the frustration.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole system needs to be reformed, but I think the problem is that, at least in America, the history has not been faced properly. You know what I mean? The history of black people, the history of the black man in the U.S., and the history of what the white man that came and settled and colonized the U.S., and the things that actually happened have not been faced. The history has not been told properly. They always say the people that win are the ones who write history.
They write history. Yep.
But the reason why this stuff is happening is because black people were brought to America. And were never meant to be anything more than slaves, right. if not dead. And the country was built on that basis. And what's happening is, I believe systematically, this is something that's been perpetuated that has been the way for many years. But now, flash forward in the year 2020, we still are using this old mentality of way of thinking and the old government, but it's a whole new world now. And the brutality and things, the unrest is coming. Or let me rephrase that. Every time I get on these interviews, man, I can't talk and shit. You know what I mean?
I thought I was. Stop it. We're having a conversation amongst friends. God damn it.
My bad.
Interview.
Excuse me.
Like
I don't
know. CNN or some shit.
Well, it's a real topic, man. So
that's important.
Excuse me for the discussion. Yeah, I'm just trying to get used to actually speaking on stuff like this. You know what I mean? Because I always like to stay quiet because I like to watch things and see, before I form my opinions. But I think the bottom line is the miseducation of people in the States is what's caused all of this. And I think that the black people were never meant to prosper in America, and it's that simple. And I think that generally speaking, the white America is very scared of black America, and this is why this is happening.
So what do we do then? What do you think would be one of the best courses of action? Because I've heard people talking about. I was listening to Bully and the Beast podcast. Shout out Bully and the Beast the other day, and they were talking about the need to infiltrate, for lack of a better word, government. There has to be representation at the local levels, and then you build from there. But what else do you think we can do? Because
I think first off, all right. So I'll tell you something that was really interesting that happened yesterday. My neighbor came by because she had borrowed something from us. She came by and she's a sweet lady. She brought us up a bottle of champagne, and she's a black woman. I think she's light skinned. I think she might be mixed. I'm not sure. I didn't really ask her, but she is on like her board with her. She has a son or whatever, and she's on a school. They have a school chat on WhatsApp with the parents and shit like that. And one of the parents was like, on Thursdays, what we're now going to do is take a knee, like outside of our door, like how Kaepernick was doing.
Right.
And she was telling me that she was just like, she just like was pissed that somebody wrote this in the WhatsApp chat, and she was just like, I just straight deleted it. She's like, because that's like ridiculous to go out and take a knee, because it's like people trying to be sympathetic to what's going on in the world, right? And she said she feels like that's sort of bullshit, because it doesn't seem like it's coming from that honest of a place. And it's like people are getting a snapshot of what's happening in the world right now from what they're watching on TV, because we're in England. So people getting a snapshot of what's going on, but people don't know the full history. And I think that sort of frustration comes from that, where she was like, I totally feel her. It's like, all right, she's like, everyone, so we're going to take a knee on Thursdays and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And it's just like, you know what I'm saying?
Yawn. Yeah, come on. The symbolic gesture shit has to stop. It doesn't do anything. Exactly.
So we got into a quick conversation. I was like, all right, we're about to go down this rabbit hole, so we're going to make it quick. And I said, the problem is people need to be re-educated on what has happened in the world and what has happened in the U.S. specifically. And it's all over the world. You know what I mean? But I said, that's the number one. So education reform is the history has to be told exactly how it was, because of the simple fact that it's black, white, Latino, all the different, the whole reason the U.S. was, the whole selling point of the U.S. is that you can come here no matter what race, creed you are, and
American dream, right?
You can have American dream and have a better life. But the problem is that the real history hasn't been told. So there's all this, so we continually are clashing with one another. So I think the first thing, if I had it my way, I would restructure the education system, at least the history part of it, in context of what we're talking about. I think the history would have to be retold, because I don't ever remember black history or true history being like told. You know what I mean? Like when you go to school, every now and then, you get Black History Month, and then you get like, they'll get some outside teacher who's like a specialist in Black history. They'll come for like a week or two and shit like that. That's what I remember as a kid. But that needs to be.
I think people need to be homeschooling their kids, for one.
Yes.
I don't think you need to be sending your kids to. I hate to say this and sound racist, because I'm so not that guy, but it's a white man's school. They're teaching us white history books that are written by white people for white people, right?
Well,
so
you're probably more accurate, because we're on the same page.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Naz.
No, sorry, I just didn't want to interrupt, because some.
No, it's crosstalk, man. Just hit it.
Just key factors in there. The point I wanted to touch on, what Walter was speaking, was that it needs to be taught by the right people, and that ties in with what Bourne was saying, with where it's essentially it's the same thing. I'm not finding my words today too, because I just wanted to say, in terms of like education, people think, oh, slavery ended like 1800s, but they don't know about the Jim Crow like shit. Or it's like, and that was only like 60s,
Yeah.
and that was basically slavery. And,
yeah.
I mean, it was only legalized for me to marry a white person in the late 60s. Like 5 years before I was born, it was illegal for interracial marriage. That's fucking absurd.
Sorry.
No. In regards to Jim Crow, I mean, America is institutionally racist. They had a cartoon, and one of the characters was named Jim fucking Crow. He was a crow, and they named him Jim on purpose. Okay, so we know what's up with that. So you have to remove yourself from it and take it over. I think, it's like you said with the education, you can't rely on somebody else. That's the only reason why I wanted to do this pod today, is because I wanted to make sure that no matter what happens, like you said, I want to see what's happening and unfolding before I open my mouth. And that's one of the problems that we have. Instead of responding to things, we tend to react to things. Right. And I don't want to react. I want to respond accordingly. But I want to make sure that in 10, 20, 30 years from now, when people start to look back and dig through this old thing called YouTube that used to be popping back in the early 2000s and whatever.
People are going to be embarrassed too.
Right. I want my contribution to history to be there. Because if we don't tell the story, somebody else is telling the story. Right. And I think that's part of the problem with why these videos and things get taken down, is because they're like, oh shit, that doesn't support our narrative. We need to get this off of here. So we need to be really careful about, what you say and where you say it. So that's why there has to be all these other options like Daily Motion and stuff like that. As long as you get it out there, I feel like I'm happy about that. But voting at the presidential level is laughable. Okay, right now it's a joke.
That's another one, isn't it?
That's a joke. So it doesn't matter which clown you put into the office. They're all on the same team once the cameras go off. They're laughing behind doors together. They claim to hate each other, but they don't. We have to get our cities together, get our DAs together, get our judges together, and then go from there. Because, until you do some change there, you're just going to have the same shit up top and nothing else is going to change.
Yeah, I think we could say that the education needs to be told properly, and that we know that homeschooling is the way to go, because only you as a parent, you know that you're not going to give your child any misinformation or anything poisonous.
Well, you would hope you wouldn't, because
you would hope. I mean, I know for me, I wouldn't, in that sense. And then I think the other thing that needs to happen is police reform.
Oh, big time.
These guys that are police need to prove it to first off, beat cops should be policing their own neighborhoods, number one, because they have an investment in there. That's where they're from. So we know conflict is not gonna be based off of fear of another race. You know what I'm saying? Or gender or any of that, Number two, I think there needs to be sort of a more rigid mental health, I guess mental health check, or what do you call that? But you know what I'm saying.
Right.
A lot of these guys, a lot of cops, I mean, that come up that are doing these things were people that were like bullied and shit back in the day, and all of a sudden now they got this authority. Now I'm a cop. Now I can bust that ass. You know what I mean? And now I'm joining the gang that's backed by the state.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's all they are, is a gang. Even
mental health, I think, is a big freaking thing. You know what I mean? And it should not be easy to become a cop. And I remember thinking, living in New York, before I came to the UK, I remember thinking that, or learning that it was quite easy to become a cop. You know what I mean? You pass the physical exams and all of this stuff, and you can learn and study the things and study whatever the protocols and all this stuff, and then you become a cop. But I think that there needs to be a deeper, more rigid sort of criteria for them to pass to become a police officer. And then any laws that cop breaks, it needs to be way harsher than the laws of the people, because they are the people that are licensed to carry pistols. They are taught how to, they're taught how to control crowds. They're taught all of this stuff. So they should know that that is to be a civil servant like that. You need to be like when it's kind of like when you work for a company and you get freebies type of shit. Right now, what's going on? It's like, it's fun. So yeah, just come on in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What's happening is when these guys are breaking laws, the police are the ones that have to, are the ones that are
they're not holding them accountable, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
They need to be held accountable. It needs to be much more rigid, I think, because or this type of shit is going to continue to happen, and those guys that committed those horrible crimes and all those crimes, they need to be freaking, there can't be any sort of bias. And I know that's a tough one, but that's the bottom line. You know what I mean?
That's the only way that the change will come. You have to do something so alien to what is normal now, because otherwise, how are we going to see any positive change? You said, we need to hold police accountable. And it reminded me of what Trevor Noah said about when police justify the bad cops. They're like, oh, it's just a few bad apples.
But
then you can't. But some professions can't have bad apples. Like,
what was it? Dave Chappelle had that one where who was a comedian that said
was it Trevor Noah though? Was it?
No, he said it too, but somebody else did it about
Dave Chappelle
about pilots or some shit. He said you can't have a few bad apples with pilots. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's the same, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone out there sees that I've said the wrong person, forgive me. But
no, Trevor Noah is.
Oh, he did say that. Okay,
I saw that same one too. Yeah,
for real. And I was like, yeah, that's so poignant, man, because they're out here protecting police and not necessarily punishing them, and that's what I meant by a completely different approach. And yes, it's tough, like you said. There's to tackle the bias. However, some responsibility needs to be given to like external bodies, some serious, and who manages that. That's what I want to know. Who can have the power to elect a group? Just like in the courtroom, you've got the jury, who are unbiased and coming to a verdict. So obviously they get infiltrated too. But you just really need something like this. So the education, if I can come back to that a little bit, is educating the parents, because you might be on the ball and with it, but other parents are just dumb as well. No offense to all parents, because it's not an easy job, but they might not know. And it's just like I'm thinking, okay, so my parents are like, they're pious, they schooled me on Islam, right, and being on it. But then in this generation, I'm seeing more and more parents, and I feel like I might become this, so I need to be careful. They're trying to instill the faith and the belief system that we believe in by letting a teacher do it, someone outside the house. And they might be professional enough to do it. That's cool, but it needs to come back home.
Right.
Because parents are parents because they're an all-rounder. They cover all areas. Not necessarily have to be a mathematician, but you need to school yourself. I'm like, damn, my maths isn't as great as all my other areas. So I might, before I become a parent, hopefully I can, I maybe like brush up on there. Or when it comes to it, you address your matters. So now the time has come. If you feel like you don't have any confidence in teaching your kids in certain areas, you need to school yourself enough to be able to give them some gems. And then have one area of education. And then it's, if you're not tutoring yourself, then at least have someone come in, and that's your decision on who you're choosing that educates your children.
Right.
And there's control there, because in the schools, there's not much control of who's teaching who and what is being taught, because you're not even seeing it.
Right.
I could be in the same room with my children, just watching them learn. There's no problem with that, is there? And at least they're picking up something, or at least seeing what they're learning. And then, and if I'm schooling myself as well simultaneously at the same time, and I can see whether they're being led astray or not. So it's like a few moves at the same time. You need to move like with the, what should I say? Well, the point I'm trying to make is it's the world rotates, and, it's going to move with or without you. So you need to just be in motion, basically, with everything aligned. So that's education. and covering many tiers, whether it's in school, whether it's home tutoring, and it's your job as a parent, as well as it's nice that you've got these what should I say, Caucasian kids questioning their parents now, and the racism that their parents have been conditioned to see, and these kids are coming up with hard stats because everyone's these but like white people get I wanted to say Caucasian. I didn't want to just throw that terminology around. At the same time, I don't like saying black either, because why are we throwing colors around? That's another debate. But it should be like African descent or something like that. I think. I don't know. Is that offensive? I'm always thinking and twice.
You're offensive, Naz. I'm offended.
I know.
I'm off this.
Shit, man. I did to the point. Everyone needs to do their bit. Do you think you're pro-racist if you don't publish anything online? I know I had this conversation with my friend yesterday, and he was saying we have a responsibility though, and that ties into what Vaughan was saying about how when people look back at what we put out there. Do we have a social responsibility? I know I'm having all these conversations about. We had this conversation about police brutality against our brothers of African descent and sisters of African descent. I was going to say black brothers, but personally, I don't want to use colors because I'm supposed to be South Asian. I'm not called brown. Why are these labels there? And then it's like, why are there borders in countries and all these things? So like, I won't go into that's another debate, but we had this long before George Floyd. And I've been about this, and I've been influenced by, let's call it quote unquote black culture. Like I've been where I am, ethnic minority. I found myself a home in hip hop because I saw oppression, and a voice and a platform through hip hop, and I found my identity through it. And then my friends were like, we joke about it, but we know we're serious about it. But it's like, I've been raised on, I know more black culture than I know about Asian culture. Maybe I need to like step my game up in my area, but it is what it is. But I also don't just see the color. But at the same time, I always school these like my people. My people is everyone. I don't see no color or anything to it. But if I'm saying people of like South Asian in the UK, we're South Asian in America, we might be called Desi or like I don't know, whatever we are. But there is a lot of racism in our. Sorry, I'm speaking everything in one go here, but we can like dissect and come back to whatever point you need to. But there's a lot of racism amongst ethnic people alone. They've been so like conditioned that they think like I might have it easier for my shade to like my cousin who's a lot darker. Like there's racism within like internally.
It's what we can ascertain is that it's a human thing, man. You know what I'm saying? And
I disagree with that. I don't think it's a human thing. I think it's something that we're taught. I think it's something that is perpetuated through media. I think when you start to see certain looks that are getting looked at and portrayed as such on whether it be like on a catwalk or on a magazine cover or on a film, you take black women, for example, in any film or television program, you have the light-skinned black girl and you got the dark-skinned black girl in the program. So let's take Martin, for example. The light-skinned black girl is the educated one. She's the more level-headed of the two, Gina. You take her dark-skinned counterpart, Pam, was wilding out. Pam was the one that was always
really interesting. I didn't even peep that.
Yep, she was always the one that was ready to fight Shanae. She was always the one that wanted to fight Martin. She was always the one ready to take her earrings off and whoop some ass, right? Whereas Gina never behave like that. And that is how we get fed black women throughout our entertainment history. And I can give other examples, but it's almost always the same. So somebody that's dark skinned is going to play a certain type of character because mostly it's the media that is making and producing this stuff is not black people. So that's why it's that way. So this is how they see us. So this is how they're going to make you see us. Right. And when it comes to like runway fashion, women are susceptible to this as well, and it doesn't matter what color. For decades, all you saw were skinny, long leg, tall women on the magazines, on the runway, on TV. This is what you're supposed to look like. So they think that if I don't look like that, I'm bad. And it's the same shit with us. You know, if we don't
Yeah.
look like that, or if we look like that, we are this, that, or the other. So
Right.
I think that's just something that we're being fed a lot of shit. And
Yeah.
because a lot of us don't really break stuff down, we just take it at face value.
Yeah.
Thanks
I
to
think-
Sir Mix-a-Lot. I was just gonna say he kind of shook up the
Yeah,
runway.
because back in the day, everybody had a flat ass back in the day. Man. Have you noticed this?
Dude, there's girls at the gym. All they do are squats and like, you know, leg press and deadlifts because they're trying to get a big booty. They don't touch nothing else in the gym. Best booties you ever seen, and then they don't, you know, the upper bodies have no strength, and they're so focused on making sure they got that Kim K butt without having to pay for it. You know, I ain't mad at it, and I'm happy to look at it.
Can you please stop trying?
Where were y'all at in the 90s when I was looking for, you know, those
Yeah, that
young...
Jane Fonda booty back in the day.
Exactly. That's just
Yeah, like, yeah. But you know, I think that's the thing, man. I was saying human though, in the sense of like that's what we need to make our judgments based off of humanity itself. And I think we've as humans we haven't, you know, we you know, man, it's freaking complicated, man. Fuck this. I'm just saying.
I get what you mean. I get what you mean. It's
we want to be, you know, I think well, I kind of lost my train of thought there, but
I was going to say with humans, we're not going to get that in power, man, because we need to, like, how do we overthrow the government to elect, what should I say?
somebody from the outside.
Yeah,
right?
someone who's ethical, who is, you know, the closest I saw to that was Corbyn. The business owners, they jump on me when I mention his name, and like, you know, even if you're not racist. But then the point is, it's like, so you went with Boris Johnson, who's like outwardly has been racist. He's got some Turkish roots in him, but he's denounced that in the way he's going on, instilling like embraces it in a way. But either way, the racist agenda has got him nicely, from his roots of having some Turkish ethnicity to him despising Muslims. It's like, where from there to here in his lineage did that change happen? And it's just completely, he's going against.
Well, I think it's, sorry to cut. I think it changes because you know that you want certain things. And if you want certain things in your life, i.e. power, prestige, you know, a political career, you have to toe the line. And if you don't toe the line, you're not going to be in parliament. You're not going to be prime minister. You're just not. I don't care if you went to Eton or wherever you went. If you don't play ball, you're out, because we run the ball game.
But that's the thing. It's like people, you know, we need to, like I said, the last time we had a discussion, we were talking about how we need to govern ourselves. You know, people need to engage in their local government, because we know that's the thing that's going to truly affect change. You know what I'm saying? Is we need to engage in local. I mean, we can't believe in the politicians that are giving you that are playing on your emotions and what you want, and say like, all right, we get this person in office, it's going to change everything, because that's just not the freaking case, man.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
We need to abolish government, period. The whole structure of it is tarnished, and we know Democrat or Republican. I mean, the last presidential election in the U.S. is a prime example. You've got an idiot on one side, and you've got a crazy lady on the other side, and people are like, "Shit."
That ran to be president because she's like, "Look, I deserve. I've been waiting this long and shit." And you know what I mean?
Right. So, but you've got these two people that neither one of them you want, right? Neither one of them. So, at what point should we say, okay, well, we've got this third party, fourth party, fifth party over here that we want to bring into the political arena? So why is that so difficult to get done? I don't understand that. We have more than one type of toilet paper. You have more than one kind of car. You know, you've got all these options. Why are we so hell-bent on only having these two options to have this bipartisan bullshit going on forever? I mean, I don't understand why it's so difficult to just either oust it completely. And I think this is why you have so many dictatorships around the world. I was thinking about this the other day, because these countries are like, we can't have any of this outside influence in our country. As soon as this American westernized influence infiltrates my country, my people are going to start acting crazy, and they're going to start behaving, in a way that's less than favorable to me. So they lock it down way harder than they probably need to, but they feel that this is what they need to do in order to keep things the way they are in their country and control the narrative. But in America and and anywhere else, you don't have that, and you just have people running around all willy-nilly doing whatever they want, and nothing's going to get changed because you have the lobbyists that control everything. So you have a multi-billion-dollar corporation that can afford all these lobbyists, and they come in and dump all this money. And when you have special interest groups with all this money, the political pundits aren't going to do what you need or what's best for the people, because these people are the people that line their pockets, and the system is so rotten from the inside out, it has to be completely torn down, I think.
Yeah, I think so too, man. I think so too. I wonder what I wonder what is going to be the outcome. I mean, we always know we want that things are changed, but I wonder what is going to be the outcome. Like, if we can weigh the different factors, what's going on, you know what I mean? Are people gonna lose a lot of their rights behind this? You know what I'm saying? This is a very delicate thing happening right now. And I wonder if the young people really realize that, people that are, it's a very delicate thing happening right now. You know what I mean? It's like, we can either, either something really good is going to happen out of this, or something really bad is going to happen out of this. And I don't know if I don't know what it's going to be. This is fucking delicate, man.
Anything can happen, but this is the time, because it could be stolen. This uprising could be stolen. Like, it could be said that, oh yeah, this is going to happen, but the wrong face is saying it. Sorry, not the face. Like, there might be a frontman who appears to be the people, it's just some sort of fake savior, and just come and uses this as an agenda to really bring it back to where it was.
Well, this shit is so confusing.
Middle East, there's some uprising, right? Like Arab Spring, as they call it. But then what's happened now? It's still dictatorship going on. There's still madness, wars, and oppression in Syria and so forth. And let's not forget with Israel and Palestine and so forth. Well, there wasn't an uprising there. There's always been oppression there since 62 or 64. But it's who this, like you said, is delicate. I'm not trying to I keep speaking 100 things at the same time, but to focus on what you said. We have to make sure we are responsible, and this is such a sensitive time that everyone does need to get involved. I wasn't uploading much before, but I'm having the conversations with everyone. Even if it's just loose talk with my mum, who's from a generation that doesn't necessarily express herself as much, or with friends who have just only rolled in a certain circle. With me, I've been fortunate enough to have friends from all colours and degree, and I've kept my mind open, and they. Not necessarily they haven't been open, but they've just been so caught up in their little bubble that they don't know what's going on, right? That's what most people are like. They're like, oh, really? This is a problem? But we've been knowing how much of a struggle it is.
But this connects back to when my neighbor came by, and the fact that people that are going to her son's school, the parents, are only getting this snapshot of what they're seeing in the media, but don't necessarily know the whole history in the U.S. of how this all happened. And for people to really realize, we can sit and have conversations, and there's always that whole people that have gone under struggle, like Jews and Black America for an example, right? A lot of times people say, well, how come black people haven't uprisen out of this, and this, that, and the third, and well, we were oppressed, and we were thrown in the oven and killed and all of that stuff, and I have sympathy and love for all of that, you know what I mean? But the problem is people don't know the full history of what has happened to black people in the States, and people are only getting a snapshot right now and don't realize that we are still coming out of a lot of those those awful conditions, and this stuff it's gonna take some time. You know what I mean? But the whole being like the whole idea of like, oh, why is this chick up here being like, all right, we're gonna go out and take a knee? It's like people are just reacting to what they're seeing, and they don't know the history, and that's why it always comes back to education. And Vaughn, you're right, man. Like I think it has to start in the home. We have to educate, at least for history, for God's sakes. You know what I'm saying? You know, and I think
period. I think they should. I don't think you should be letting your kids go to public school at all. I think the way they teach and what they teach is just antiquated.
I never learned anything from school, really.
It's true. I mean, well, we know the schools are built to teach you to become part of this society as some sort of contributor. They didn't even teach you. I remember when I first got into like the sort of self-help, sort of The Secret and all of that stuff. I remember thinking like, damn, they never taught you any of this shit as a kid growing up. You didn't learn, you know, you don't realize as a youth that visualization is actually it brings things to light. And I remember, I want to say it was like 2004, 2005 when that whole movement started to become in my sight. Like I started seeing that and being like, oh my God, you know. And I went to a good school, man. You know, I went to a Jesuit school. I went to a upper echelon school. You know what I'm saying? So realizing that, I remember thinking like, all right, why aren't they teaching people, you know, this, you know what I'm saying? They're not teaching any of this shit. And we know the education system, but it starts with, like we said, it starts with education. And this is all an outcome of that. The people that are committing these awful crimes are undereducated, and this is why they're afraid of black people and of whoever the fuck is getting oppressed. The oppressors are always afraid because they're undereducated. You know what I mean? And it's just, so it starts with education. And I think that that's the key, to be honest. Because it was one last thing I wanted to say, because there was a friend of mine, Ja Bay, is a longtime friend that I had that I'm still connected with to this day. I speak to all the time, and we've been friends since freaking like 12 years old. Shit. And he's a really smart dude, and I mean he always breaks stuff down. I call him all the time because he's so, you know, he's so aware of things and shit. And I'll hit him up and be like, yo, what do you think of this, that, and the third? And there was this kid that was in the middle of the protest. He was a young kid, and he was I forget exactly what he was saying, but I have to send you a link. But he was getting everybody super hyped because he was talking about like freedom and having to do with Martin Luther King and all of this stuff. But it turns out people were like super hyped up for him, and they were shouting, yeah, you know, getting behind him. But he was giving the wrong information. And Ja was like, he's like, and this is where the education comes in, because this kid had everybody pumped up and psyched, but he was wrong in his facts. So you have to applaud
self-learning.
Well, you have to applaud the fact that he is, you know, his consciousness is you know, like the idea of what he's saying, but what he was saying was actually not accurate, and that's the problem.
Execution is key.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's the problem. And I mean, I think that's what we got to take away from this is are we going to the information needs to be correct, you know, and the laws have to be reformed for police. And man, this shit's so complicated. It's crazy.
So in terms of detail,
over here, this shit is complicated as hell, man. You know, there's a lot of factors.
Yeah, because I know that's why it's so hard to like
think about the fact of COVID and all that. It's shit's fucking bonkers right now, bro. Now that I'm talking to you guys, it's becoming more like I'm realizing how much more nuts it is. But sorry, go ahead.
No, just saying in terms of detail and executing the right information. And it'll come back to like what we've been learning. So there's unlearning to relearning, right? That's one element of it. And then there's so you've got someone who's got the momentum, like they want to do something, but they don't know how. It's like, you know, I'm seeing a lot more posts about, I say posts because I do a lot of my reading on Instagram, but I choose who I follow, and I do follow a lot. I base a lot on gut feeling, and my gut always gets me to the right place. So I like to say, with my sane mind, does this make sense? If there's something specific, then I'll research more into it if I'm not sure. And that's what we need to do. We need to question what we take in. We're so quick to share things without even proof, sense checking. And we need to be accountable for that, and not by anyone else, just by ourselves. And then that's where it comes from. And also, you know, I just going back a couple of steps, you know, you're saying the whole human element, because with racists, obviously they are mentally disturbed. So it's like someone commits a horrific murder. Like, I can't believe they did that. Like, I couldn't see myself doing that. How are they able to do that? Well, we can't understand how they did it because their mind ticks in a different way. So we can't fathom. So what can we do? We can only conclude with the fact that they are insane, and that's it. So I'm almost losing my train of thought again. But so they're insane, and then the other thing is like the human element of it is like empathy. Like, okay, so they're insane, they're the racists, and then there's people who are just coming to see of it now. I don't know why. Maybe they're just such victims of like just distraction, like that they haven't seen that oppression has been going on forever. I don't know why, but I've been on it early. Maybe because I've experienced racism coming from basically in a white neighborhood, and from young. And fortunate that I've got family everywhere, so I've seen all sides of it, and like have got ethnic friends regardless of where I am. But I was speaking more specifically about my school era. But I don't know if that's what's caused me to be having empathy, and and having a part to play in this. Like, I don't know why it's not normal for people to see suffering and feel for their fellow brothers and sisters. Where is that unity? Why isn't there unity? That, like, there's such a clash, and and before I was like, okay, so we're seeing this. Is this a trend? Blackout Tuesday. I'm not doing that shit. Like, no offense to anyone, but like, not to you guys, whoever's listening in. I feel like you guys get me, but like, I feel like some people are doing it because if they don't do it, this seems racist. So it's not genuine coming from them. And then there's doing it, but I'm like, is that going to be enough? Like, I'm having the conversation. I've been having the conversations before George Floyd. Man, this "I can't breathe" has been happening more. It's not a recent quote. It's been happening. Eric Garner, and let's say,
it's because people are taking action because motherfuckers is locked up in their house. They're already like on edge, and then they see something awful like that happen, and then it's like, boom, all right, now let's hit the streets. You know what I mean? And and that's not to undermine what's going on, but it's just we've created an environment. Well, we're in an environment now where we essentially are on medical martial law, if you want to go there. You know what I'm saying? We're pretty much, everybody's locked in the house, you can't do shit, and then this thing happens, and then the young black woman was killed, and then Ahmaud Arbery, and then all of this stuff. And then it's just, you have to look at, we're in an environment now where it's like, all right, we're not standing for this shit anymore. You know what I mean? My thing is, like, I hope people are in for the right reasons, and what is the outcome? What is it? What we're gonna accomplish?
Most of the people are in for the right reasons. A lot of people have co-opted the protests. There are cops. We've seen that there's cops that are out there spray painting Black Lives Matters on the side of buildings.
I think that's amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, and like, you got people like who are like spraying. Yeah, that's another thing. And like, kill cops. I don't know if that's by a police officer.
That's the cops doing that shit. They're doing that
just to get martial law in place or something like that.
Yeah, well, it
feels like that, doesn't it?
Well, of course, it all comes back on us, right? So, and even if you're like, if you see somebody white painting Black Lives Matters, it's almost, because you can't. This is the problem with these police officers shooting people. One, because you can never tell what somebody's intent is, and that's why they get off on killing these people, because, well, it wasn't my intent to kill them. I was scared. I didn't go. I didn't go in there with the intent of harming somebody. So you can't prove intent in court. So that's why they walk. So if a white person sprays, maybe they're supporting the struggle and they spray paint BLM. Maybe they're against BLM and they're spray painting it to worsen it for that movement. So you don't really know, and it's almost like, just don't spray paint anything if you're supporting it. And because at the end of the day, it's going to be black people that are going to be the ones that are going to be suffering the consequences for whatever takes place. And that's why you've got cops out there in plain clothes doing dirt, because they know. And you've got opportunists, which are going to come out, under any circumstances. They're like, all right, people are out here in the streets, people are looting. I could use me a new MacBook. I'm going to the Apple store, right? And I get that, but but the problem is I'm going to be the one that's going to be punished for it, not you.
Exactly.
So, you know.
Yeah, the looting, I wanted to touch on actually. I'm glad you spoke on it. I was like, when I see that shit, I'm like, this is off gender, and it was annoying me. But my views have changed a little bit because, first of all, it was like, okay, you're looting, you're going to make people look bad, and you know, you're just going to cause some shit, like we said. However, you know, the fact is, people are saying, oh, you're the other point is that, oh, you're looting, and people are like, oh, these hard-earned businesses, and at the same time they're not putting what should I say, they're almost like more concerned about the business than George Floyd's death. They're like, oh, you're disrupting businesses, but then I'm like, what about the kneeling on his bloody neck? And like,
because those are the people that don't support it. So.
Yeah, and then it's like the looting. Okay, so you're trying to hit at it economically in a way. In a way, I feel like the small businesses, whoever they are going to suffer in this. And how do they rebuild themselves? Yeah. But then people are like, well, they're businesses, they can rebuild themselves. No, the bigger corporations can are the ones that need to be hit if you're going to hit anything. I'm not promoting anything. Don't arrest me, people. But like, you know, that's where it will cause the impact. So it's like, if you're going to do something, do it with some sense. And then my views changed on the whole looting thing a little bit, because people obviously are tired, but this is the time where a lot of people are listening. So that's where I'm like, okay, so if you're generally just having a conversation, or your views are like, you know, one of empathy and oneness with your fellow humans, whatever race you are, that's one thing. But then we do have a responsibility in this era. I was thinking, you know, that Blackout Tuesday stuff, I was like, how long is this trend going to happen? How long are people going to be on it? But now the fact that everyone is on it, like, use this time, because it's like more now than ever, it's being spoken of. So it's good. It's like whenever you got someone's attention, you utilize that, right? And this is the time. That's why I feel like the responsibility is there for me to speak more than I do anyway. So I feel like I do enough in a way, but I'm like, no, you can always do more. And the fact that it's this time we're in, it's the time to really cause some cause and effect. Sorry, but yeah, that's where I come with it.
I think we need to to really hurt those companies, you need to literally just stop giving them your money. And
that's simple, yeah.
You know, like the Targets and things like that, because those are the ones that you're going to have to I'm looking stuff up right now, and I'm reading this article from the U.S. Politics Today by the Conservative Army, and it says BLM is a cancer in America in this moment, you know. And it's just unbelievable how some people feel that there should even be a counter.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? I mean, anyway, so you have all these companies that, like Walmart, and you know, you've got Amazon now. They did something where they posted something about Black Lives Matter, and then a customer kicked off, and like, you're one guy, and now you're in the news, and you think that Amazon is going to change their stance on something like this to appease you? So boycott them. I really don't think they're going to care. Amazon is going to be fine, and they're. You have to wonder, to me, about companies like that, though, that are they doing that to seem like they're on side, or are they actually on side? So if you boycott companies that are problematic, boycott companies that don't support your narrative, and once you hit companies in their pocketbook, that's when they start to suffer. And like you said about the local businesses, yes, most of them have insurance, not all of them do, and they can rebuild, but that's not the point. It's those big businesses that can definitely rebuild, that are getting, you know, they gave away like what, $2 billion in stimulus to help these companies, you know, after the pandemic, but they gave you $1,200.
I can't believe that
to survive. You know, once here's $1,200, and we're gonna make you stay in the house for 3 months. But I'm going to give this company over here, you know, millions of dollars to stay afloat. They don't give a shit about you.
Yeah. And that's another reason where the looting, I'm like, okay, well, if you're hungry and there's no money, and, you know, that my heart goes out there, and I see why it's a disruption to make some noise and some change, as well as feeding your stomach. Like if everyone's gonna lose their jobs and you're only gonna give them X amount to only that's rent you're covering too, right? With that money. It's just stupid. There's no logic behind it. So of course you're gonna have people whiling out like that, and there is anger and rage. I mean, that's been brewing for however long, and I'm sure a lot of brothers and sisters who have been suffering in silence, and they're speaking out a little bit now, and it's hurting them a little bit more because it's just being reminded of how much and how long it's been going on for, right? And that's where where the rage can form again or reignite it. So no one should be surprised that people are pissed off.
My brothers, I gotta go, man.
Yeah, we're getting out of here. We've hit the 1 hour point. I just want to say thank you to both of you for coming on today. Go and support the Beard Podcast with this guy with the hat on and the beard. And when Johnny Voltek gets his new music stuff together, go shout him out. What are your guys' Instagrams so people can follow you and stalk you and all that good stuff? Support your work.
Oh, I'll let you go. Yeah, I was gonna say Voltik.
Oh yeah, I'm at Voltik Graham. VOLTIK Graham. And and then check me out on YouTube at Johnny Voltik as well, and Facebook and all of that good stuff. I got a single out actually I did with my man Sir Tumez, aka Core Rhythm, and it's called Black Valhalla. It's on Facebook. I'm gonna send you guys a link to it, and I haven't posted it yet, but he posted it day before yesterday. I was gonna let it chill, and then I posted it later today, just to give it some more legs. But it's funny because a tune we did, I want to say like 2011, and we never completed it. And then after all this stuff started coming out, we finally got it mixed and stuff, and the subject matter is totally perfect for right now, which is funny. It's a funny sort of synchronicity, but. That's out, and then I'm putting the finishing touches on my project called The Dark Ages, and I'm excited, man. So
sounds fun, man. That's the beauty of timeless music, right? It's relevant.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were gonna say something. I cut you up.
Nah, that's it, man. I'm just saying peace and love to everybody thanks Vaughn for having us on here, and wish your shit too.
Yeah, man. Mine is my Instagram is Beard Talk Podcast, and same stuff. It's just me just speaking my thoughts, covering all areas, current affairs, self-development, kind of the stuff that we're talking about now, things that matter. And you can find my stuff as well at Beard Talk, whether it's on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you want to call it, all of there. Just search Beard Talk Podcast, and I'm sure you'll find me. It'll be with a hat and a beard.
Dope, guys. So have a great weekend, and thanks for listening and watching if you're watching us on YouTube or Daily Motion. And don't forget, you can't enjoy the rhythm and ignore the blues. We'll catch you guys next time on I do so many damn podcasts, I forget where I am. Thoughts from LA to the UK podcast. Thanks, fellas. Y'all have a good weekend.
Bless.
Peace out.